Emily, sweetheart, could you not pretend you built this company? You were always better at filing than thinking. It happened in the main showroom of Carter Industrial Supply, under the fluorescent lights that hummed just loud enough to be noticed when the room went quiet. There were 42 people there, staff, vendors, 2 regional managers, and my entire family. Someone near the back let out a short laugh before catching themselves. Most of them looked down at their phones. A few just watched. I didn't correct her. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old. And the company, she said, that about had my signature on every line that kept it alive. They didn't know that yet. The house sat 3 miles outside of Columbus, on a stretch of road where the asphalt cracked in thin white lines, and the mailboxes leaned just slightly forward, like they were listening. It was a 2-story colonial with blue-gray siding, white trim, and a front porch my father insisted on repainting every spring, even after the company grew big enough that he didn't have to do anything himself. Inside, everything smelled like lemon polish and old paper. The floors creaked in the same places they had when I was 10. The kitchen had a long oak table with a burn mark near the center from a pot my mother dropped in 2003. No one ever sanded it down. My father said it gave the place character. The office was in the back, just past the mudroom. That's where the real house lived. 2 desks, 1 window, filing cabinets lined against the wall. Each drawer labeled in my father's handwriting, thick black marker, all caps, receivables, vendors, contracts. The smell back there was different: ink, dust, a faint trace of motor oil that clung to his jackets. That's where Carter Industrial Supply started. Not in a boardroom, not with investors, just invoices stacked in rubber bands, and a single client who paid 32 days late. My father, Michael Carter, built the business the way he did everything. Quietly, without asking permission, and with the expectation that it would belong to his son one day. Daniel was 3 years older than me. He had my father's height, his posture, and the kind of confidence that made people assume he knew what he was doing before he ever opened his mouth. By the time he was 16, he was already walking through the warehouse like he owned it. Forklift drivers nodded at him. Vendors shook his hand. I was the one at the desk. I knew which invoices were overdue without opening the drawer. I knew which vendors needed to be called twice, and which ones would wait if you just gave them a date and said it clearly. I knew the exact number of units we could move in a slow quarter without dipping below operating costs. No one ever introduced me that way. At family dinners, the hierarchy was understood without being spoken. My father at the head of the table. My mother, Linda, to his right, refilling glasses before anyone asked. Daniel across from him, talking about expansion, about scale, about how we could move into new markets, like it was something you could just step into if you said it confidently enough. I sat on the left side, near the edge. Emily keeps things organized, my mother would say, smiling in that tight, careful way she had when she was trying to make something sound bigger than it was. Someone has to, my father would reply, not unkindly, but not looking at me either. Daniel didn't say much about me. He didn't have to. His silence carried the same weight as a decision already made. When the company moved out of the house and into the warehouse on the north side of the city, the dynamic didn't change. It just had more space to echo. The building was 18,000 square feet, concrete floors, steel racks stacked 12 feet high. The air always carried a mix of cardboard dust and machine grease. In winter, the heat lagged behind the cold by at least an hour. In summer, the fans pushed warm air in slow circles. My father took the corner office with the window that looked out over the loading dock. Daniel got the glass-walled office next to him. I got a desk in the administrative bullpen, 5 feet from the copy machine, that jammed every third print job. My name wasn't on the door. It wasn't on the org chart either. But my work was everywhere. I knew the vendor contracts down to the clause numbers. I caught a billing error once that would have cost us $47,200 over 6 months. I renegotiated a shipping agreement that reduced our quarterly expenses by 11.3%. I stayed late on a Tuesday in March and rebuilt an entire set of financial projections after Daniel presented numbers that didn't reconcile with our actual inventory. The next morning, my father walked into his office, looked at the corrected documents, and said, "Good, this is more like it." He didn't ask who fixed it. At Thanksgiving, when my aunt asked how the business was doing, my father leaned back in his chair and said, "Daniel's been stepping up, really taking ownership." Daniel nodded once, like he was accepting something that had already been given to him. I passed the mashed potatoes. There was a system in place. Not written, not formal, but consistent. Daniel spoke. I prepared, Daniel decided. I executed, Daniel was introduced. I was referenced, even my mother followed it, though I don't think she realized she did. "Emily's been such a help," she would say, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder like I was part of the furniture she'd just dusted. A help, not a partner, not a builder, not someone who had been there in the office when the first client threatened to pull out because of a delayed shipment, calculating, in my head, how many days we could stretch before it affected payroll. Just a help. The language mattered. It always does, because once people decide what you are, they stop looking for anything that contradicts it. And in our family, I was the one who kept things together quietly, in the background, without needing credit, or so they thought. The first time it happened in front of people, it was small enough that anyone could have missed it. We were in conference room B, rectangular table, 12 chairs. A faint smell of dry erase marker that never fully left the walls. It was a Tuesday at 10 a.m., quarterly vendor review. 8 people in the room, including 2 representatives from Midwest Components who had driven in from Dayton. I had prepared the packets, 12 copies, each one tabbed, section dividers labeled in 10-point font so they didn't crowd the page. I placed them at every seat before anyone arrived. Daniel walked in last. He didn't look at the packets. He just sat down, leaned back, and tapped the table once with his pen. "Let's keep this high level," he said. "No need to get lost in the weeds." The vendor on his left nodded, relieved. I opened my copy to page 7. There was a description in their last 3 invoices, 3 180s each, billed under expedited shipping that hadn't been authorized. I waited until there was a pause. On page 7, I said, keeping my voice level, the last 3 shipments were billed as expedited, but they were scheduled under standard terms. That's a difference of $9,540. The room shifted slightly. Papers turned. Daniel didn't look at the page. He looked at me. "Emily," he said, smiling like he was explaining something simple. "We're not going to nickel and dime our partners over minor variances." The vendor across from me exhaled quietly. "It's not a variance," I said. "It's a billing error." He leaned forward then, finally glancing at the document, but only for a second. "We'll take it offline," he said. Then to the room. "This is why we have support staff. They catch details. We focus on growth." A few people nodded. One of the vendors smiled in a way that didn't quite reach his eyes. I closed the folder. After the meeting, the Midwest rep shook Daniel's hand and said, "Good to see you thinking big." No one asked me for the numbers. I sent the corrected invoice request at 2:14 p.m. The credit came through 5 days later, $9,540. It didn't get mentioned again. The second time was at the warehouse floor, near loading dock 3. It was late October, cold enough that you could see your breath if you stood still too long. The metal of the dock doors held the chill like it had weight. There were 17 pallets lined up for a shipment going to Cleveland. I had the manifest in my hand. Clipboards always felt heavier when something was off. The count didn't match. "Daniel," I said, walking over to where he was talking to 2 supervisors, "we're short 4 units on pallet 6B. He didn't break his conversation, just lifted a hand slightly, like he was waving off a sound. "It's fine," he said. "They'll reconcile it on arrival." "They won't," I said. "It's a serialized batch." That got a glance, quick, annoyed. "Emily," he said, louder this time, so the supervisors could hear, "you don't need to panic every time a number doesn't line up perfectly. I'm not panicking, I said. I'm telling you it's missing inventory. One of the supervisors shifted his weight. The other stared at the floor. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough that it felt controlled. Then go find it, he said. That's what you're good at. I looked at the manifest again. The numbers were clean, too clean. Or, I said, we hold the shipment for 20 minutes and recount. He exhaled through his nose, a short, sharp sound. We're not delaying a truck because you want to double-check your work. My work. I didn't argue. I walked the floor, Azel 4, Rack C 3rd level. The 4 units were there, pushed back behind a mislabeled box. Same serial range, same batch. I brought one down and set it on the dock. Found them, I said. He didn't look at me, just nodded at the supervisor. Load it, he said. The truck left at 3:42 p.m. On time. No one mentioned the serial numbers. The third time, it was my birthday, November 12th. 32 years old. My mother insisted on a dinner at the house. She set the table with the good plates, the ones with the thin blue ring around the edge. There were 11 people there, family, 2 of Daniel's friends. My father sat at the head, like always. There was a cake, chocolate, store-bought, the kind with frosting that leaves a film on the roof of your mouth. After dinner, while my mother was cutting slices, my aunt asked, "So Emily, what exactly do you do at the company these days?" She meant it kindly. She always did. I opened my mouth to answer. Daniel spoke first. "She keeps everything running behind the scenes," he said. "If you've ever wondered how we don't collapse under our own paperwork, that's Emily." There were a few soft laughs. My aunt nodded, impressed in a vague, unfocused way. "That's important," she said. "It is." Daniel agreed. Every operation needs someone detail-oriented. Someone. I picked up my fork. The cake was too sweet. My father raised his glass then. To Daniel, he said, "For pushing us forward this year." Glasses lifted. The clink of crystal was clean and brief. "To growth," Daniel added. No one corrected it. I took a bite of the cake. It stuck slightly to the back of my teeth. The fourth time, it stopped being small. It was the annual supplier dinner. 40 guests. Private room at a steakhouse downtown. Low lighting, dark wood walls. The smell of grilled meat and red wine that settled into the fabric of your clothes. I had arranged the seating chart. Every placement was intentional. Werthers next to managers they needed to speak with. Conversations that needed to happen given a place to happen in. My name wasn't on the printed program. I noticed it at 6:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the doors opened. "Daniel," I said, holding the card. "My name's not listed under the executive team." He glanced at it, then at me. "It's not a big deal," he said. "Everyone knows who you are." "That's not the point," I said. He adjusted his cuff, smooth, practiced. "Emily," he said, voice even. "You're not part of the executive team." There was a moment where the room felt narrower. "I've been handling vendor contracts, financial projections, and you support those functions," he said, cutting in. "You don't lead them." Behind him, the event coordinator was waiting for a signal to open the doors. "We can talk about titles later," he added. "Tonight is about relationships. Relationships." The doors opened. Guests started to walk in. At 7:12 p.m., I was standing near the back of the room when one of our largest suppliers approached Daniel. "Impressive setup," the man said. "Who handled all this?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Our team," he said. The man nodded, satisfied with the answer. I watched from 6 feet away. At 8:03 p.m., I corrected a contract clause on a napkin because the printed version had a term that would have locked us into a 24-month commitment instead of 12. I slid it to the supplier quietly. He read it, raised an eyebrow, and signed the corrected version. Daniel shook his hand 10 minutes later. The line got crossed 3 weeks after that. It was a Monday, 9:17 a.m. My inbox had 43 unread emails. One of them had a subject line that didn't match anything I had seen before. Subject: updated ownership structure. Effective immediately from Michael Carter. There was an attachment. 6 pages. Legal formatting. Black and white. No color. I opened it. The first page listed the current ownership. Michael Carter, 60%. Emily Carter, 20%. The second page listed the updated structure. Michael Carter, 51%. Daniel Carter, 49%. Emily Carter, 0%. There was a note at the bottom. 2 sentences. Emily, this reflects a more accurate alignment with leadership roles. We'll discuss your compensation separately. I read it twice. The numbers didn't change. At 9:22 a.m., I walked to my father's office. The door was open. He was at his desk, glasses low on his nose, reviewing something on paper. "Did you mean to send this?" I asked, holding the document. He looked up, not surprised. "Yes," he said. There was no hesitation. "I built this company with you," I said. The words came out level, no edge. "You helped," he replied. Same tone. "Helped." "That's not what the original agreement says," I said. He leaned back slightly, folding his hands. "Agreements evolve," he said. "So do roles." I placed the document on his desk. The paper made a soft, flat sound against the wood. "And my role is what?" "Exactly?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He glanced past me toward the glass wall where Daniel's office sat, then back at me. "Support," he said. The word landed clean. At 9:28 a.m., I walked out of his office with the document still in my hand. At 9:31 a.m., Daniel stepped into the hallway. "Hey," he said, casual, like we were talking about a schedule change. "Don't take it personally. It's just structure." Structure. I nodded once. I didn't say anything. At 9:36 a.m., I went back to my desk. The copy machine was jammed again. The red light blinked in a steady, indifferent rhythm. I set the document down next to it. That was the moment the line stopped moving. That was the moment it held. I didn't go back into my father's office. I didn't walk into Daniel's. At 9:42 a.m., I cleared the paper jam. The machine reset with a soft mechanical click, like nothing had happened. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The document was still on the corner, aligned with the edge, the way I always kept things. 6 pages, black ink, clean margins, 0%. At 10:03 a.m., an email came through asking for a revised vendor schedule. I answered it. 3 sentences, precise. Attach the correct file. At 10:11 a.m., accounting flagged a discrepancy in last quarter's freight charges. I sent them the breakdown, line by line. No errors. At 10:26 a.m., Daniel walked past my desk without stopping. At 11 a.m., I stood up, no announcement, no explanation. I picked up my bag, leather, dark brown. The strap had a small crack near the buckle that I had been meaning to fix for 6 months. I left my keycard on the desk. I left the document where it was. I walked past the copy machine, past the glass offices, past the front desk where Karen was on a call and didn't look up. The air outside was cold, clear, the kind of cold that makes everything feel sharper than it is. I got in my car, 2016 Honda Accord, 84,219 miles. The engine turned over on the second try. I sat there for a moment, with my hands on the steering wheel. The leather was worn smooth at 10 and 2. Then I drove. I didn't call anyone. I didn't go home. At 11:38 a.m., I pulled into a parking lot 3 blocks from the courthouse downtown. The sign read public parking, $2 per hour, exact change only. I had 4 quarters in the center console. I fed them into the meter one at a time. Each one dropped with a distinct, hollow click. An hour. It was enough. I sat back in the driver's seat and looked at the building across the street. Brick, 4 stories. American flag at the entrance, moving slightly in the wind. There were people going in and out. Some with folders, some with nothing. I didn't feel anything I could name. At 11:52 a.m., I opened my phone. There was one contact I hadn't used in almost 2 years, Rachel Bennett. I had met her at a compliance seminar in 2022. She had asked more questions than anyone else in the room. Specific ones. About liability. About documentation. About what happens when internal structures stop matching legal ones. We had exchanged numbers. Once I tapped her name, the phone rang twice. "Rachel Bennett," she said. "It's Emily Carter," I said, a pause. Short. "I remember," she said. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Okay." I looked at the courthouse doors again, the way they opened and closed, the rhythm of it. Hypothetically, I said. If someone removed an owner from a company without their consent, but the documentation didn't match the operational reality, what would that look like? There was a longer pause this time. Not hypothetical, she said. No, I said. No, she repeated. A sound in the background. Papers moving. Do you have copies of everything? She asked. Yes. Emails, agreements, financial records, anything with your name on it? Yes. Another pause. Shorter. Then it looks like a conversation we should have in person, she said. Today. I checked the time on the meter. 32 minutes left. I can be there in 20, I said. I'll be here, she replied. The line went quiet. At 12:01 p.m., I started the car again. I didn't go back to the warehouse. I didn't send a message. I didn't explain. I made a decision, and I followed it. Rachel's office was on the third floor of a narrow brick building on East Broad Street. The hallway smelled like old carpet and copier toner. Her door had a simple plaque, Bennett Legal, no first name. No extra lettering. At 12:23 p.m., I sat across from her desk. She looked the same as I remembered. Dark hair pulled back, navy blazer, no visible clutter anywhere, just a legal pad. A pen placed exactly parallel to the edge, and a closed laptop. Walk me through it, she said. I didn't start with the document, I started with the beginning dates, names, percentages. The original agreement signed on June 14, 2016. Michael Carter, 60%. Daniel Carter, 20%. Emily Carter, 20%. I told her where we signed it. The office in the back of the house. The oak table with the burn mark. My father's pen ran out halfway through his signature, and he had to grab another from the drawer. She wrote everything down. Not fast, not slow, just exact. I moved forward. Invoices, contracts. The $47. 200 billing error I caught in 2021. The renegotiated shipping agreement that reduced expenses by 11.3% starting Q2 of 2022. The financial projections I rebuilt on March 8, 2023, after Daniel presented numbers that didn't reconcile with inventory. Do you have documentation for all of that? She asked. Yes, I said. Where? Cloud storage. Local backups. Email threads. She nodded once. Good, she said. We'll need all of it. I slid the updated ownership document across the desk, 6 pages, black ink. She read it without speaking. Her eyes moved line by line. When she reached the second page, the one with the percentages, she stopped for a full 3 seconds. Did you sign this? She asked. No. Were you present when it was executed? No. Were you notified in advance? No. She tapped the page lightly with her pen. Okay, she said, that helps. At 12:41 p.m., she turned her laptop toward me. We're going to build a timeline, she said. Not a narrative, not what it felt like, just what happened. She opened a blank document, January 2016. Company formed, June 14, 2016. Ownership agreement signed, 60/2020, she typed as I spoke. Every date anchored to something verifiable. Emails, bank transfers, signed contracts, vendor agreements, payroll records. At 1:12 p.m., we reached the present, April 20, 2026. Ownership restructured without consent. Emily Carter removed. She saved the document. Now we support it, she said. For the next 2 hours, we pulled everything apart. I logged into my cloud drive. Folder names appeared in a clean column on the left. Contracts, financials, vendors, internal. Inside each one, more structure, year, quarter, subfolders labeled by client name. Rachel didn't comment on the organization. She didn't need to. Start with anything that has your name on it in a decision-making capacity, she said. I opened a contract from August 3, 2021. Vendor Midwest Components. Amendment clause modified. My signature on page 4. Initials on every change. She leaned in slightly. This is good, she said. This shows authority, not support. We added it to a new folder, Evidence, Authority, next tame thread from March 8, 2023. Subject, Q1 Projections, Revision, Daniel's original file attached. My reply at 11:47 p.m. with corrected numbers. Spreadsheet included. My version matched inventory logs exactly. His didn't. Rachel read the exchange. Did anyone acknowledge your correction? She asked. No. Did they use your version? Yes, she nodded. Then the usage is the acknowledgement, she said. Added to the folder. At 2:06 p.m., we pulled bank records, operating account, statements from 2020 through 2025. My login credentials still active. I had approval authority on transactions above $10,000. My name appeared on 63 separate approvals over 25,000. Scroll, she said. I did line after line. Dates. Amounts. January 12, 2024. $38,700. Approved by Emily Carter, March 3, 2024. $112. $500. Approved by Emily Carter. July 19, 2025. $187,000. Approved by Emily Carter. She pointed at the last one. Do you remember this? She asked. Yes, I said. Equipment purchase. Replacement for a failed unit on line 3. Who made the decision to replace it? I did. Who signed the agreement? I did. Who's listed as the contact on the contract? I am. She sat back slightly. That's not support, she said. That's operational control. We exported the statements, added them to the folder. At 2:44 p.m., we moved to internal communications, Slack logs, archived channels, direct messages. Daniel, 9:12 a.m., February 2, 2025. Emily, can you finalize the vendor terms and send? Need it locked today. My reply, 9:18 a.m. Done. Sent for signature. Attachment included. Rachel highlighted the message. Language matters, she said. He's delegating finalization, not asking for assistance. We saved it. At 3:03 p.m., she opened a new document, legal theory. She typed 3 headings. Breach of fiduciary duty. Improper dilution of ownership. Unjust enrichment. She didn't explain them yet. Just let the words sit there. Now, she said, we quantify. Numbers again. Total revenue growth from 2016 to 2025, $2. $3 million to $18.7 million. Net margin improvement after shipping renegotiation, 11.3%. Documented cost savings directly tied to my actions. 47,200 billing correction, plus 9,500 invoice discrepancy, plus $100. Zuzand estimated over 2 years from revised vendor terms. She wrote each number down. No rounding. Courts don't respond to effort, she said. They respond to impact. At 3:41 p.m., she printed the timeline. 8 pages. Black ink, clean margins. She stacked the evidence behind it. Contracts, emails, bank statements, each labeled. The packet was 63 pages when she finished. She aligned the edges against the desk, tapping it twice until it was perfectly even. Next step, she said. We control the setting. I looked at her. How? I asked. Where do they feel the most comfortable? She said. I didn't need to think. The supplier dinner, I said. Annual. Same place every year, she nodded. How many people? She asked. 40 to 50, I said. Vendors, managers, family. Good, she said. Public enough to matter. Professional enough to hold weight. She wrote the date, May 14, 2026. Do you have access to the guest list? She asked. Yes. Then you're going to add one name. She said, I knew which one. Rachel Bennett, I said. She shook her head slightly. No, she said, not as your guest. She turned the legal pad toward me and wrote a different line on Vestor, pending. They're courting investors, aren't they? She asked. Yes, I said. They've been talking about expansion since January. Then we give them one, she said, on paper first. At 4:02 p.m., she dictated an email subject. Strategic Investment Inquiry. Carter Industrial Supply from R. Bennett, on behalf of a private client. Interest in mid-sized industrial suppliers with demonstrated operational growth and scalable infrastructure. Requesting attendance at upcoming supplier event for initial evaluation. Specific interest in speaking with Emily Carter regarding operational frameworks and financial controls. I read the last line twice. They'll notice that, I said. They'll fixate on it, she replied. She sent it at 4:07 p.m. We didn't wait long. At 4:19 p.m., Daniel replied, short, immediate, happy to have you attend. We can arrange a meeting with our leadership team. No mention of my name. Rachel forwarded it to me without comment. At 4:26 p.m., my father replied separately. Looking forward to discussing growth opportunities. Emily handles administrative coordination. We'll ensure you have access to the right people. Rachel read that one, then looked up. They're consistent, she said. She opened a new document, meeting plan, step 1. Attend event, step 2. Allow them to present their version, step 3. Introduce discrepancy, step 4. Present evidence, step 5. Let third party validate. She closed the laptop. Do you understand what happens next? She asked. I did. They'll try to control the narrative, I said. Yes, she said. And we won't let them. She slid the 63-page packet across the desk to me. Keep this with you, she said. Not in your car, not in your house, with you. I picked it up. It had weight, not just paper. At 4:41 p.m., I stood. Thank you, I said. She nodded once. Be on time, she said. And don't say more than you need to. I left her office with the packet in my hand. The hallway smelled the same. The air outside had shifted. Warmer. Late afternoon, light settling against the buildings. At 5:02 p.m., I got into my car. I didn't check my phone. I didn't go back to the warehouse. I drove home. And for the first time that day, everything was quiet in a way that felt intentional. The private room looked exactly the same, dark wood panels, low amber lighting, the faint, steady hum of conversations layered over the sound of cutlery against porcelain. The air carried the smell of seared steak and red wine, thick enough to settle into fabric. 46 guests this time. I counted them as I stepped in at 6:58 p.m. Same arrangement, same long table, same printed programs placed at each seat. My name wasn't on it. I took a place near the back, 6 feet from the wall, close enough to see everything, far enough that no one felt the need to include me. At 7:04 p.m., Daniel stood. He adjusted his jacket, placed one hand lightly on the back of his chair, and waited for the room to quiet. Thank you all for being here, he said. It's been a strong year for Carter Industrial Supply. His voice carried easily, controlled, practiced. He spoke about growth, about expansion, about streamlining internal processes and positioning for scalable investment. The words moved cleanly from one to the next, like they had been rehearsed. My father sat to his right, nodding at the right moments. At 7:11 p.m., Daniel gestured toward the far end of the room. We're also excited to have a potential investor joining us tonight, he said. Someone who's been reviewing our operations closely. A few heads turned, subtle shifts in posture. Interest, measured and quiet. Rachel stepped forward then, same navy blazer, same exact posture. She didn't rush, didn't look around for approval. She just walked to the open space beside Daniel and stopped. Rachel Bennett, she said. I'm here on behalf of a private client. Her voice was even, not loud. It didn't need to be. Daniel extended his hand. She shook it once. Glad you could make it, he said. We're looking forward to showing you what we've built. I've already started that process, she replied. A small pause, barely a second. Daniel smiled. Of course, he said. Then you know we have a strong leadership structure in place. I've seen the structure, she said. The room settled. At 7:13 p.m., she reached into her bag and placed a folder on the table. Black, clean edges, 63 pages inside. I do have a few questions, she said. Daniel nodded, still composed. Happy to answer anything, he said. She opened the folder. Page 1, timeline. June 14, 2016, she said, glancing down briefly. Original ownership agreement. Michael Carter, 60%. Daniel Carter, 20%. Emily Carter, 20%. A few people shifted in their seats. Names anchored things. Daniel's smile didn't move. That's correct, he said. She turned the page. April 20, 2026, she continued. Updated ownership structure. Emily Carter removed, 0%. This time, the pause was longer. My father leaned forward slightly. Yes, he said. We made adjustments to reflect current roles. Rachel looked up. Without her consent? She asked. The question sat in the air. No edge, just exact. Daniel stepped in. It was an internal decision, he said, aligned with leadership responsibilities. Rachel nodded once, like she was acknowledging the words, not agreeing with them. Understood, she said. Then I'd like to clarify something about those responsibilities. She slid the first document across the table, contract. August 3, 2021, Midwest Components. My signature on page 4. Who finalized this agreement, she asked. Daniel glanced at it. Our team, he said. She didn't respond, just placed another document on top. Email thread. March 8, 2023. Subject line visible. My reply highlighted. This revision corrected a projection error tied to inventory, she said. Who authored the corrected version? Daniel's hand rested on the table still. Emily assisted with that, he said. Rachel's pen tapped the page once. Assisted, she repeated. She turned the page. Bank statement. July 19, 2025. 187,000. Approved by Emily Carter. Who authorized this transaction? She asked. My father spoke this time. That was an equipment replacement, he said. Necessary at the time. That wasn't the question, Rachel said. Silence. Who authorized it? She asked again. My father's eyes moved to the line. Emily did, he said. There it was. She didn't pause. 63 transactions above $25,000, she said, flipping to the summary. All approved by Emily Carter, vendor contracts amended. Financial projections corrected. Cost savings documented at $168,740 over a 36-month period. Numbers landed differently than opinions. The room was quiet now. No movement. No side conversations. At 7:19 p.m., Rachel closed the folder halfway. So I want to be precise, she said. You're presenting a structure where the individual exercising operational control, financial authority, and contractual finalization holds zero ownership. Daniel's jaw tightened once. Subtle, controlled. It's more nuanced than that, he said. Rachel tilted her head slightly. Then explain the nuance, she said. No one spoke for a full 2 seconds. I could hear the air system above us. A low, steady hum. Daniel straightened. Emily's role has always been supportive, he said. She executes well, but leadership requires a different skill set. Rachel nodded. Execution of what? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. She didn't fill the silence. She let it sit. At 7:21 p.m., she turned one more page. Slack message. February 2, 2025. Emily, can you finalize the vendor terms and send? Need it locked today. Her finger rested under the word finalize. Delegation of final authority, she said. Not assistance. Daniel's hand moved then, just slightly. Fingers curling against the table. My father shifted in his chair. This is being taken out of context, he said. Rachel closed the folder completely. Context is exactly what we're establishing, she said. She stepped back half a pace. Then she looked directly at me for the first time. Emily, she said, would you like to clarify your role? 46 people turned at once. Not loudly. Just enough that you could feel it. I stood. The chair made a soft sound against the floor as it moved back. I didn't rush. I didn't look at anyone except the table. My name is Emily Carter, I said. I'm 32 years old. The same sentence, same tone. I built the operational systems the company runs on, I said. I negotiated vendor contracts, approved transactions, and corrected financial projections that were used in every growth report presented in this room. No one interrupted. I placed my hand lightly on the edge of the table. The wood was smooth, cool. On April 20th, I continued. My ownership was reduced to 0% without my consent. I let the numbers sit. Nothing about my role changed, I said. Only the paperwork. Silence. Rachel stepped forward again. For the purposes of our evaluation, she said, addressing the room now, ownership and control need to align. At present, they do not. She paused. And until they do, there is no investment. There it was. Clean. Final. External, not my voice, a third party. At 7:24 p.m., Daniel's expression shifted. Just once. The smile was gone, not replaced. Just absent. My father leaned back slowly, like the chair had moved on its own. Around the table, people adjusted. Subtle recalculations happening in real time. Vendors looked at their programs again. At the names printed there. At the one that wasn't. I picked up the folder, all 63 pages. Aligned. I didn't look at Daniel. I didn't look at my father. I spoke once more. If the structure changes, I said, you know where to find me. Short. Exact. Then I stepped back. The room stayed quiet. No one laughed this time. The email started the next morning at 7:12 a.m. Subject lines shifted first. From updated ownership structure, effective immediately to follow-up discussion. Carter Industrial Supply language always adjusts before people do. My father's message came in at 7:18 a.m. 2 paragraphs. No greeting. We should sit down and talk through this. There may have been a misunderstanding about intent. The structure was never meant to exclude your contributions. No numbers, no percentages, just intent. Daniels arrived 6 minutes later. Last night got out of hand. We didn't expect it to be handled like that in a public setting. Let's regroup and align on next steps. Align at 7:31 a.m. A third email came through. Vendor, Midwest Components. We'd like clarification on who will be handling contract finalizations moving forward. That one was shorter. More direct. By 8:05 a.m., there were 9 emails in my inbox. 4 vendors, 1 regional manager, 2 internal staff members who had never contacted me directly before. Same question, phrased differently. Who is responsible? I didn't answer immediately. At 9 a.m., Rachel called. They're going to try to resolve this quickly, she said. Not because they agree, because they have to. I was at my kitchen table. The same oak surface from the house, moved into my apartment years ago. The burn mark was still there, faint but visible in the grain. What are they offering? I asked. Nothing yet, she said. They'll start with language. Then they'll move to numbers. She paused. Don't respond until they do. At 10:14 a.m., my father sent a second email. Attachment included. 4 pages this time. Proposed revised ownership structure. Michael Carter, 51%. Daniel Carter, 29%. Emily Carter, 20%. The original percentage. Restored. Below it, a paragraph. This reflects your historical involvement while maintaining current leadership alignment. Historical. I read it once, then again. The numbers were correct. The reasoning wasn't. At 10:26 a.m., Daniel called. I let it ring. He didn't leave a voicemail. At 11:02 a.m., Rachel sent a message. Don't accept that. No explanation, just the sentence. At 11:15 a.m., she followed with a second filed outer proposal. Emily Carter, 40%. Michael Carter, 40%. Daniel Carter, 26%. I looked at the numbers. Why 34? I asked when she called again at 11:18. Because it reflects control, she said. Not just participation. She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. At 11:32 a.m., we sent it. No additional language. Just the document. At 12:47 p.m., my father replied. Unreasonable. One word. At 1:03 p.m., a vendor called me directly. I recognized the number. Cleveland account. The serialized batch from October. Emily, he said. We just need to know who signs going forward. His voice was careful. Neutral. Noted, I said. I didn't answer the question. At 2:16 p.m., another email came through. Tennell, accounting. We've paused 3 outgoing payments pending clarification on authorization. Repaused. Money does that when it doesn't know where to go. At 3:04 p.m., Daniel sent a second message, longer this time. We've always valued what you do, but this approach is damaging relationships. Vendors are asking questions. Staff is confused. This isn't the way to handle internal matters. I read it once, closed it. At 3:22 p.m., Rachel called again. They're feeling pressure, she said. Give it until tomorrow. Why? I asked. Because the longer it sits, she said, the more expensive it gets for them. At 4:10 p.m., I went for a walk. No destination, just movement. The air was warmer than the day before. The kind of late spring warmth that settles into the pavement and stays there even after the sun starts to drop. I passed a storefront with reflective glass. For a moment, I saw myself the way they had always described me. Quit. Background. Replaceable. Then I kept walking. At 7:08 p.m., my mother called. I answered. Emily, she said, this has gotten complicated. Her voice was softer than the emails, less certain. It doesn't have to be, I said, a pause. Your father didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I didn't respond. He thought, she started, then stopped. The sentence didn't finish. I know what he thought, I said. Another pause. Can we have dinner? She asked. Not tonight, I said. I didn't offer another time at 9:42 p.m. The revised offer came in, no email body. Just the attachment, 3 pages, final proposed structure. Michael Carter, 40%. Daniel Carter, 26%. Emily Carter, 34%. The numbers matched Rachel's document exactly. Below it, a single sentence. Effective upon signature. No explanation, no justification, just the correction. I forwarded it to Rachel. She replied at 9:47 p.m. Accept. One word. At 9:52 p.m. I opened the document again. Read every line, margas. Clauses, signature blocks, nothing hidden, nothing vague. At 10:03 p.m. I signed digital timestamp. April 21, 2026, 22/3/17. At 10:05 p.m., my father signed. At 10:06 p.m., Daniel signed, 33 seconds apart. Fast, precise. Final. The next morning, the org chart changed. My name appeared where it hadn't before. Emily Carter, Chief Operating Officer. No announcement. No meeting. Just a quiet update in the system. By 11 a.m., the paused payments were released. By 1:20 p.m., vendors had their answer. By 3:45 p.m., the emails slowed, not stopped, just adjusted. My father didn't apologize, Daniel didn't either. They changed their language. That was the apology they were capable of. My mother sent a message at 6:12 p.m. I'm proud of you. No qualifiers, no explanation. I read it once. Then I put my phone down. It didn't change anything. It didn't need to. Because by then, the structure matched the truth. And the truth didn't require anyone's permission anymore. I work in the corner office now. Same building. Same view of the loading dock. The glass has a slight distortion near the bottom left corner that bends straight lines if you look at them too long. I noticed it on the second day. No one ever mentioned it before. The air still smells like cardboard dust and machine grease by mid-afternoon. The fans still push warm air in slow circles when the temperature rises. Some things don't change just because the org chart does. My name is on the door, black letters, centered, Emily Carter. Chief Operating Officer. It took 12 seconds to install. I timed it. I keep the door open most days, not for them. For the people who used to stand where I stood. The desk is different, larger, clean surface, no stacks unless I put them there. The 63-page packet sits in the top drawer, aligned edges even. I don't look at it often. I don't need to. The system runs the same. Vendors send contracts. I read them. Line by line, clause by clause. Numbers stay exact. Dates stay anchored. Authority is clear. When something doesn't match, I say it once. That's enough now. My father still comes in 7:02 a.m. most days. He walks past my office, pauses for half a second, then keeps moving. We speak when necessary. Short sentences. Specific topics. No history. Daniel adjusted faster. Language, mostly. Emily will handle that. Run it through Emily. Check with Emily before we finalize. He says my name now, consistently. It lands differently than it used to. We had a meeting last Thursday. Conference room B. Same rectangular table. Same faint smell of dry erase marker. 12 chairs, 8 people in the room. A vendor raised a pricing issue. Small discrepancy. 3,180. I opened the folder to the exact page. It's billed under expedited, I said. It should be standard. That's a $9,540 correction across 3 shipments. The vendor nodded. Daniel didn't speak. No one laughed. The correction went through before the meeting ended. Clean at home. The oak table sits by the window. The burn mark is still there. I run my hand over it sometimes. The surface is smooth except for that one place where the wood changed shape under heat and never went back. Some things stay visible. My mother came over last week. She brought a cake. Chocolate. Same kind as before. The frosting still leaves that thin film on the roof of your mouth. We sat across from each other. No audience, no raised glasses. Do you like it? She asked. It's the same, I said. She nodded. We didn't talk about the dinner, or the document, or the percentages. We talked about the weather, the neighbor's dog, a broken cabinet hinge she wanted to fix, small things, accurate things. When she left, she stood at the door for a second longer than usual. You look settled, she said. I didn't answer. I closed the door. At night, the building is quiet in a different way. The hum of the lights fades. The warehouse settles. Metal contracts slightly as the temperature drops. You can hear it if you stand still long enough. I stay late sometimes, not because I have to, because I can choose when I leave. That's the difference. I lost something in that room, not the percentage, not the title. I lost the version of the story where I waited to be recognized. I gained the part where recognition isn't required. The numbers are aligned now. The structure matches the work, the language matches the truth. I don't correct people anymore. I don't need to. They say my name, they use the right numbers. They understand where decisions come from. And if they forget, there's a record, there's always a record. I am not support. I am not background. I am not a footnote in someone else's version of events. I am the one who builds what holds.